Come in.
Well, I trust I'm not disturbing you.
No, not at all. I'm looking for a list of necessities that Mrs. Adams sent. Since the blockade, she cannot get them in Braintree, and she asked me to bring them home on our recess. There was threads, needles. Where's that damn list?
John, I do think there are graver matters before us.
Not for me if I come home without them.
You read this latest report from our army in Massachusetts.
Certainly.
And it's clear that old General Ward must be replaced. He continues to lose battles.
Indeed, but by whom?
I was thinking of putting myself forward for the post.
You, John?
But is there another man in this Congress who has fought so long and so well against the British?
John, it is one thing to lead a mob of Boston patriots in the streets, quite another to command an army in the field.
John, I know armies. I understand military tactics and strategy. I mean, I've read Caesar's campaigns of Hannibal crossing the Alps.
Hannibal? John, isn't it enough for you to be the president of the new Congress?
I'm wasted here, Mr. Adams. I must have command of our army.
Damn it, Mr. Hancock, we have a country to defend. This is no time to scramble after rank and honors like apes after nuts. Oh, here it is. Thread pins, that was it, pins.
Now, are you suggesting that I want this...
John, if we truly want this Congress to adopt our army in Massachusetts, shouldn't we appoint a Southerner?
Never. Our Yankee militia would refuse to take orders from a Southerner.
Well, they damned well better. We can't afford a Northern and a Southern party. Besides, the habit of command sits easy on those Southerners. They are raised from childhood to be
To
leaders.
hunt foxes, not Englishmen. John, I'm the only man here who is qualified to command. I've experience in fighting the English, an independent fortune, a talent for leadership, and the oldest friend of John Adams. I do expect that you will do your duty.
Gentlemen, there is great danger in procrastination. If Congress does not support our army in Boston, that army will disintegrate. Therefore, I propose that a new general be appointed by this Congress to assume command of the army in Boston. There is one man who is splendidly equipped for this high office. A gentleman of independent fortune, great talents, and impeccable character. A gentleman from Virginia, George Washington.
My dearest friend, this is Saturday, June 17th. The British began their furious bombardment of Charlestown. Now the town is in ashes and few survived the battle. Many, fearing that nearby Boston will soon be set afire, have fled the city and its terrors. As I view the acts of man in this time of undeclared war, I am more and more convinced that man is a dangerous creature. I fear that power, whether vested in the many or the few, is ever grasping. Like the grave, power cries, "Give, give," and the great fish swallow up the small. When I consider these things, I feel anxious for the fate of our people.
What is the Congress doing? When will they adopt our cause as their own?
Were Abigail in this Congress, they would take action.
We have wasted 3 whole days debating another damn petition to the king. Have they no sense, no feelings, no passions?
Most splendid speech, Mr. Adams.
I fear if we debate much longer, all of Boston will be in ashes.
Sir, you cannot expect 13 clocks to chime all at the same time. In a few weeks.
In a few days, Dr. Franklin, my family may be driven from their home. In a few weeks, this Congress may be forced to flee Philadelphia.
More speeches, Mr. Adams? Pray, is there no end to your store of rhetoric?
Mr. Dickinson, I will cease my speeches when you end your efforts to petition the king. All you do is encourage the belief that we lack the will to fight.
If you don't agree with our efforts to make peace, we will carry on in our own way.
Your petition is a measure of imbecility.
Fortunately, sir, you are not the final judge of its merits.
No, Congress must judge. And if they pronounce against me, I must submit. But if they pronounce against you...
They will not. I know the temper of this Congress. Believe me, Mr. Adams, should you ever speak out in a temperate fashion, I would be the first to applaud you.
Mr. Dickinson, the day that you applaud me, I will know I have said something very foolish. Oh, my dear Abigail, you ask if every member feels for us. Every member says he does, but most feel more for themselves. Here you will find men who are timid, men who are selfish, men on whose calloused hearts nothing but money and interest can make an impression. Men who think a few barrels of flour are more important than 1,000 lives, other men's lives.
A certain great fortune and piddling genius, John Dickinson, has given a silly cast to all our doings. We should have had in our hands a month ago the foundation of a new government, to have raised a navy, established an army, but they
Mr.
continue to delay.
Dickinson, believe me, sir, this letter was not meant for public view.
I am certain of that, Mr. Hancock.
Mr. Adams was writing in private to his wife.
He never dreamed the letter would be captured by the British. Nor that they would have the cunning to publish it.
May I, sir? No mortal tale could equal the behavior of these delegates. Their fidgets, their whims, their vanity. Why, the ignorance of some of them would
Good
try
morning,
to
gentlemen.
John, how could you do this to us?
Mr. Hancock, I did not but write what we both know is true.
And you have destroyed whatever use you might have been to our people in this Congress.
Sir, the letter was a little
Do
intemperate.
you think these men will rally to the cries of Massachusetts after he has slandered them before the
Mr.
world?
Adams, when you do write the history of this Congress, pray put me amongst the fidgeters and the whimsical, rather than the vain and the ignorant.
Dr. Franklin, if I gave offense, none was intended.
Sir, you gave offense. And there is but one way to undo this wrong.
Apologize to the Congress?
No, sir. You must accept the apology of the Congress. Gentlemen, do not read the private letters of a man to his wife.
I fear we have no more green tea.
Well, I've never tasted a better soup.
You look very tired, John. I fear all your work for the Congress has not been good for your health.
Well, your labors here seem to improve you. You know, you're very much admired in Philadelphia.
I am?
When Dr. Franklin met you on his way down from Boston, he was most agreeably impressed.
Indeed.
He said you were the most accomplished lady he had met in New England. Down, vanity.
Vanity? You think me vain?
Just so, I was merely jesting.
If I am vain, I preen before cows.
Abigail.
There's little else for me but this farm and its labors. Fences need mending, pastures must be plowed, the children's lessons look to, and food. Food bears so great a price if it is not made at home, it cannot be got. All I think about is grain. Grain? And where am I to get coffee, flour, pepper? And where are the pins I asked for? Children's clothes are a disgrace. I have a sore on my middle finger. And I'm so lonely here I could cry.
Please.
Do you know in the 13 years that we have been married, less than half of that time have we been together? I sometimes feel that my heart, like your clothes, will go to rags without love and attention.
For you.
Open it.
Pins. You remembered my pins.
Johnny, I trust you will study your French in my absence.
Yes, Papa.
I feel my lack of education every day, particularly in the French language.
Papa, must I learn it too?
Certainly, since you are to be a statesman like your brother.
Shall the baby perfect his French too, Mr. Adam?
It would be well if he mastered its rudiments. If we suffer their minds to creep and grovel in infancy, they will creep and grovel all their lives. Remember, set your attention on great and glorious deeds. Root out every evil.
Weed out meanness, scorn injustice, cowardice, falsehood, self-interest.
What?
That was in your last letter, Papa. Papa, if we cannot go to Philadelphia with you today, may we ride upon your horse?